This is video 2. The first of our continuous improvement tools is learning objectives. And I'm going to review with you how to build learning objectives for your classroom. Think of a learning objective as establishing a direction for learning with the end in mind. You can often think of a student and ask them, how is it that you will be successful in this class? And probably most students would answer, well, I'll be successful when I get a passing grade or pass the test. But if you change that question and asked, what is it that you have to learn to be successful in this classroom? Most students probably couldn't tell you that. They just know, well, whatever the teacher teaches me is what I'll learn. What we'd like to do is create an environment in our classrooms where students know the direction the class is going. From beginning to end, what is it that they need to know in order to successfully pass your class? So learning objectives is taking our curriculum, our TEAC standards, and putting it in kid-friendly terms so that they have an idea from the beginning of the class to the end of the class, all the things that they're going to have to know in order to be successful for your class. Now this could take several different forms, and I'm going to show you a couple of those forms on our poster here today. But know that this is how creative you can be with establishing these learning objectives. Now I teach math, so in my classroom, in an Algebra 2, I might write my learning objectives to look like this. And I will do them by semesters. So that in my first semester I will say, students will, and I'll begin listing all the things that I expect them to be able to do in order to successfully complete semester 1. Not only will it list all the objectives on this poster that I'll hang in my classroom, but I'll give them a copy of it to have for themselves. Now I discovered that in my classroom in Algebra 2 that there would be 32 learning objectives in the first semester and 35 for the second semester. And it may seem a little daunting to kids at first to look at this, but as we go through and I talk about it on the first day of class, they can look and see that there's a lot of similarities between what we're going to be studying. And I'll actually have them look it over and tell me, what do you see repeating often and often through these learning objectives? So that they will get a sense that maybe it's not a lot of new materials, but different ways that we're looking at the materials. Now, as this poster is put in my classroom, one of the things that I can do as I'm going through the course of the year, I might group some of these objectives together, and we'll say that the first 2 or 3 objectives are going to be our first unit of study, and that they'll know that they'll be tested on these together. And so now with our new grading procedure in place, what I can do is I could say these first 3 objectives will be tested together. And in fact, this test will be on, let's say, September 8th of this coming year. And once I put this date up, they know now with our new grading procedure, once this day is passed, they have 2 weeks from that time to get the retest done. So then over on the other side, I can put 2 weeks from this date, which would be September 22nd, and it will be marked now, and they will know to be able, when they have their final retesting opportunity. So it's a good system to have in place for the kids to keep track of when learning occurs and when they need to have mastery of that subject. Well, that's one way of writing learning objectives, not the only way. In fact, I know a world geography teacher that when she writes her learning objectives for world geography, she does it in a different format. And in fact, she does it in a really kid-friendly way. She talks about what they're going to learn, and she does it in a narrative form. So in this example of world geography, you'll see you will learn about people, places, and the environment. You will study about local places or regions and states and countries in the world. And she writes it in such a narrative fashion so that it's kind of an intriguing message to the kids on what's going to take place. And she does this through the major units of study throughout world geography. And at the beginning of the year, as she goes through this, she's trying to set a mystique about what's going to happen in the classroom, but yet give them an idea of all the different topics they're going to have to face, what they're going to have to investigate, and what they're going to have to study from the beginning of the year to the end of the year to be successful. So that would be another way of putting learning objectives together. I know a foreign language teacher, in fact a Spanish teacher, who does her learning objectives even in a more unique way. She does hers by 6 weeks, and she calls this the ladder of learning. And every 6 weeks, she puts a new ladder up, which states at the bottom where they begin, what is the major purpose of that 6 weeks of study? And in this case, she has students will be able to hold basic conversations in Spanish. And then she has the rungs of the ladder, the different things they're going to study, and the chapters they're going to study, and the topics they're going to study. And as she goes through the 6 weeks, she will go through and check the ones that they're working on, and when they're finished, she crosses it through so the kids can monitor their course of study. And at the top of the ladder, she always has a 6 weeks assessment, so they know that that's what they're working for. She'll also list over here what she calls the drivers, or why is it that we want to focus and work hard on this? Because we can get rewards, because in her classroom she gives rewards for different levels of success, because it will increase your GPA as you focus hard on these topics, and it's a preparation for testing. So it's just a different way of putting lesson objectives together. The most important idea out of this video is that you should be able to encapsulate for your students a summary of what is expected of them for the year. They're not in the hole, they're not in the black, and they know where we're heading from beginning to end. They're able to mark passage along time so they know where they are in the process of studying, and that they can perform check marks along the way to know and kind of pace themselves throughout the year for their course of study. I hope this gives you some ideas on how to do lesson objectives for your classroom.